Next up on the track 2, we've got Colonel David Caswell, and kind of continuing that theme of providing the hands-on learning environment and really bringing in that public-private partnership, but this time focusing perhaps more on the private side or the education side, is Colonel Caswell, and he's the permanent professor and head of the Department of Computer and Cyber Sciences at the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, Colorado. He leads the 28-member department that administers the ABET accredited computer science major and the NSA recognized and ABET accredited computer science, cyber science program. In addition to teaching over 1,200 cadets annually, his department is home to the Academy Center for Cyberspace Research, which conducts long-term research in 4 research focus areas: autonomy and artificial intelligence, immersive environments, cyber system security, and business process automation. So here to share with us about the Air Force Academy Cyber Ops in the Classroom, Colonel Caswell, welcome. And hopefully I gave proper cybers and all the rest in the introduction. And a reminder, if anyone has questions, or drop them into the questions or the chat. And with that, I will leave us in your capable hands for the next little bit.
Thank you very much, Liz, and I appreciate that introduction. Can everyone hear, can you hear me okay there, your side?
Yes, all good.
Perfect. All right, so I've was asked to kind of talk about how we do ICS and SCADA with respect to our curriculum here at the Academy. So hopefully no one minds, but I'll do a quick kind of presentation, talk to some about some of the events and some of our philosophy of how we've structured our program here, and then open up to questions. So I'm always open for questions as we go if there's anything we need to recover. So hopefully the screens are showing now. All right. So this is what I'm going to quickly go over. Liz, can you see the screen? Is that showing? I'm hoping this screen is actually showing. Okay, so here's what we're going to go over. To start off with, here's the overarching program that we have here. We have ABET, which is the engineering accreditation community that is accredited both our computer science and cyber sciences program. We created the cyber sciences as an extension of the computer science, which is where many of the programs coming out with cyber science is extended it out of. We did the same here. And we're very proud that we're also NSA certified for academic excellence of cyber operations and defense education. So we end up doing multiple different types of accreditation reviews. We have approximately 21 courses, ebbs and flows, depending on some special electives, things like that. And we're also heavily involved in operations research, data science, system engineering. And this all kind of goes into a holistic view that we have of making this digital related airman for the Air Force in the future. And you can see on the right, continued growth of students in the program. This is, I tell my students openly and honestly, and they should be proud of, we don't make an easy program. We make one that challenges them and helps them become the officers that we all feel in our department that the Air Force desperately needs. So what does it look like? Well, you know, first off, we have some benefits of having a phenomenal facilities that we're able to use to help improve our curriculum. From an ICS SCADA perspective, you can see a couple of those here. So the bottom right, we'll talk a little bit about the ICS SCADA platform we all have, which is a SANS Cyber City platform that is dedicated to our cadets and the educational programs that we have here at USAFO. We also work with our EE department for some power grid simulator, which we do research and activities on. And then I'll also talk about some of the extended areas we work on for our competition range, where our cadets are actively being red team, blue team, or capture the flag, or any types of engagement activities with either other services or other organizations, shall we say, across the world. And then the newest one, which we'll mention, which is our Joint All-Domain environment we're working on. So Cyber City, this is kind of our showcase one. So this is a lovely train station setup, but it's all controlled by real-world ICS SCADA systems. It is set up, and we work with SANS to host this each year. We maintain all of the code and systems here inside of our building. And our cadets have the opportunity to work with them at various levels, so everything from just simple vignettes and exercises, trying to understand what is ICS and SCADA and how does it impact the environment that they work on, but also to policy implications of, what are things that would be legal in a wartime environment against ICS SCADA, or what are the implications on the kinetic environment from ICS SCADA types of attacks or defenses or lack thereof. And inside of this platform, not only does it have the ICS SCADA systems on there, but we also benefit from an entire armada of core communication capabilities that we would expect to see in a modern community. Everything from a face space, which is similar to a social media type of site, to a banking industry, to web camera video systems. And the cadets have the engagements to be able to leverage, exploit, use, do whatever they can inside of that. And we of course have the ability to roll back and reset so we can do it again and again and again in a repeated manner. So one of the new efforts we've been trying to work on is trying to incorporate that ICS SCADA environment with a broader multi-domain command and control operations and engagement. And we've been working with our Unmanned Aerial Systems Center here at USAFA to create an engagement where we can have the kinetic environment operated in the control room that you see here, but also have a direct engagement and tie-in of our cyber cities. So the effects that they are seeing on the small unmanned aerial systems that they're controlling through this control environment with the kinetic effects, we would also be able to demonstrate and represent inside of the ICS SCADA system and vice versa. Any of the events that we're able to do from a cyber effects perspective would have implications on the battle environment that they're doing for the multi-domain operations. And this is really trying to get us out of the mindset that cyber is a domain in and of itself. It is a domain, but the implications, the impacts that it has ramifications across all of the other domains. And so to stop that stovepipe and really try to bring them to a higher level of thinking, this is something we're really excited about trying to roll out to future classes. So how do we roll this all out? Well, we have kind of this pyramid approach. So starting at the bottom, Cyber for All, this is affecting every student. And so every cadet who comes through here, everyone who's intended to graduate will hit some of these courses, one or more, or all three throughout their time. And they have different levels of discussion. So in our Computer Science 110, we're talking more personal security, introductions to what is cyber as an operational effect. And then as they go through their time here, so that's our freshmen take that one. We call them 4 degrees. As they go through their time here, by the time they're juniors or 2 degrees, they're now looking at a little bit more higher level thinking about it with some of the military theory, as well as some principles of the larger spectrum of communications capabilities in the MSS 300 and ECE 315 courses respectively. But then for a smaller subset of the students, they get the option to take some more advanced capabilities. So for example, our Cyber 256 program, which is a cyber training course that we do over the summer. It's cadet led, but it really gets them in everyone. So we'll have approximately 250 students a year that will get that offering. And through that 1 week's program, what they're going to do is they have hands-on engagements and they learn about operational planning and engagement, but then they are also doing the technical activities on top of Cyber City and or other platforms, including the JADE environment, where they're now using that in a kinetic mindset and operational mindset approach. So they'll do intel, they get intel briefings, they'll provide operational briefings, they'll then do the action, and then they'll debrief it afterwards in order to see how they did and try to recover for the next day, where they'll repeat on a different vignette and storyline using different systems and different capabilities. For a more a smaller group, we have our cyber competition, we'll say club, but that group will eventually then go into a cyber competition team, which we'll talk about shortly. And that's really where we get people who on their own volition want to spend some time looking at and trying to think through how to go do cyber engagements and work through the different challenges in a very technical level. One of the things we've tried to do over the last couple of years, and I think very successfully, is bring in a lot more of the non-technical aspects of cyber into that discussion, and that's through both heavily promoting and trying to leverage the cyber law, cyber policy, and cyber strategy courses offered by our law, our military strategic studies, and our political sciences programs, as a way for them to understand the implications of cyber on a larger battlefield and a larger international context, both legally, policy, and strategically. So it's not just a technical answer, but it's also the higher level kind of thought processes that go into that. And we've brought that also into that Cyber for Few block. So we have our cyber science major, which we saw the numbers earlier, approximately 20 students a year. This year we have a bit more. and our cyber competition team. And even in the competition team, we've now started engaging just, beyond just the technical type of engagements. And those engagements are things like the National Cybersecurity Exercise, or now the Cyber Defense Exercise, to capture the flags across other in the various community DEF CONs and other conferences and opportunities, intercollegiate and otherwise. But we've also started moving into the policy aspect of those competitions through things like Cyber 912 and engagements like that. And they've been very successful, in some cases winning outright. Let's look at some of those ones. Well, so for that Cyber for All, the first one they're going to have is this Introduction to Computing. So this is, again, our freshman level course. And so we're trying to go provide a basic overview of what is, this course has a lot in it. We're talking about basic programming, some artificial intelligence, and that's a good proportion of the block of the 40 lessons that we're given for providing the content. But then we have approximately, I'd say, we're probably right around 10 lessons now, where we're giving them cyber foundations. And so this isn't necessarily how to go, this is more terminology. What are different actors? What are the personal security threats? How are they vulnerable? And what should they do to protect themselves? But also things like what's the phases of an attack and that kind of stuff. And this culminates in our mission, which is on Cyber City. And this was a custom mission that we built here, where the students are able to do a start to finish. And this is only in a 15-minute block, so it's a fairly fast one. But how do they do a social media recon, they do some network scanning, some kind of let's say fictional password guessing kind of exercises, just to get an understanding of what would happen in a type of cyber attack in order to control our infamous Falcon ICBM site, which looks an awful lot like the Nerf gun thing that you see in the picture down below. It's always fun if you're in that environment. If you happen to be in that room during that lesson, inevitably the students will find you and try to shoot you with the gun, the Nerf gun thing. Fortunately, no one has been injured in such activities. But this happens to all, all of the 1,200 or so freshmen that we teach each year. And a lot of the implications here that we're trying to get across is how to think about the kinetic environment from a cyber perspective and the implications of going both directions, right? What can we do in a cyber environment that would affect the kinetic battlefield, and vice versa? What is the adversary trying to do it? So where do we need to put protections? And then also make sure that they're well aware of the implications that they present as both potentially as a target, but as just a member of society in an active cyber environment, right? And that moves into the Cyber for Some, which we'll highlight with this summer cyber training. So summer cyber training, like I said, it's about 250 cadets a year. Well, 180 to 250. Our goal is 250. 5 days, full on plan, brief, execute, debrief type of activities. And these culminate in things like the mission you see on the right here, where they're doing much more low-level engagements on the platform. They're looking at trying to do a disruption of different storylines. So, for example, one of them is that there's the radar tower inside, actively it's been taken over. How do you go and regain control of that radar tower in order to allow other missions to occur in that platform? And this has all been built up with a phenomenal work by both cadets and faculty to create a storyline that leads to it, right? So what is the intel brief that's happening, and why is this important, and what's the strategic and political implications, and do we have legal authority to support it? All right. That then goes into kind of the Cyber for Few, which is, for example, our competition team, which you see here. So cyber competition team, we're super proud of. They get to do numerous competitions across the world each year, and typically tend to stay in the top 10%. What's super exciting about this team is it's very much cadet-led. We have officer mentors, but we really empower the cadets through things like our Cyber City, through creating and hosting different types of training environments, so training ranges, capture the flag exercises we've created, modified, and hosted through different training vehicles where the cadets actually will, after they solve a problem, they have to do a write-up, and then they help teach the next generation of cadets, so that there's this continual flow of knowledge that's helping to just kind of reinforce itself and make them all better cadets. But also, our goal is better officers. And then that goes into our cyber major. So this is the numbers you saw earlier. We believe that this is a phenomenal major that really helps them understand deeply both the technical challenges, but also the political policies, strategic options that or challenges that exist in the cyber domain. This is highlighted by a 3-course sequence, which I'll go over in the next couple slides. So the first of that 3-course sequence is our Cyber Science 333. So this is our cyber warfare. So think of it as offensive operations. So we do everything from reverse engineering here to low-level programming exploitation techniques, working on different types of things. Think about Kali Linux and some of the different tools there, and what they use, how would they be used. And we do offensive first in order to help make sure the defensive operations course, which is our next one, have a good understanding of how to go to protect that. We have a big belief here that you can't be a good defender without understanding offense, and you can't be an offensive operator unless you understand defense. And the balance between those two things have to work hand in hand. So cyber defense, we talk about different security models, but also incident response, network design management, how to do digital forensics, yeah. And all of those culminate in our final course, which is the Cyber Science 435. So this is the cyber operations. And this one really is built around that ICS SCADA platform. And we do a lot of work with the students so that they are actually using the different tools that are on the range, exploiting the different systems that are on there and defending them. And the goal is that we keep hoping to develop to is eventually having it a full red team, blue team in an open environment so that we can have students sitting on both sides of each other, actively defending and engaging, trying to understand the pace, but also the challenges of operating in a full cyber engagement, and then flip and let them switch and try the other seat. And so, not there yet, but that's kind of our ongoing goal that we're shooting for. You can see an example of the mission there. So this is a much more technically sophisticated mission. We don't give them nearly the architecture. Of course, the first 2 courses, the 333 and the 334 courses, really build up to the technical understanding of what to do in this type of environment. And then this is one where we're looking at as effectively a practical exercise, where they're now demonstrating their ability to go and make that engagement and understand the relationship of the ICS SCADA world to the more traditional, just basic comm network IP-based world. And so how does this all kind of roll out? Well, at the end of the day, we're looking at trying to leverage all of these things in our new state-of-the-art facility, which we're hoping to break ground here in the next, I hope in the next month or two, and really create a platform where we can not only show our cadets what this cyber world is, but also the importance of it to the Air Force at large, and bring it a multidisciplinary state-of-the-art capability that we can really enhance the discussion about both the technical aspects of ICS, of cybersecurity, but also again, the policy, strategy, and law nature of it as well. Another major activity we have ongoing is working on building off of the Cyber City platform to try to create more independent aspects. So how do we modularize the city in order to create different vignettes that the students can have can go and engage in, and quickly reset them so that the next student can go and engage in it. One of the challenges of this kind of platform is that they are physical systems, so if multiple people are playing with it, you could potentially have a clashing effect where someone's doing one thing to it, and that'll then kind of negate the opportunity for another student to go and have that engagement. So how do we do some of that disconnect? And it's an ongoing challenge, and I'm sure which one we'll right now we just time deconflict. We'd love to find other options, but that's something we're constantly working on. And then continuing to engage with our kinetic aspects of it. So as the Space Force has been stood up, we're actively working with Space Force to try to bring some of their specific needs into our overall multi-domain operations engagements. And that could be everything from expanding our ICS SCADA system to include space launch capabilities, or to do ground station and communication capabilities with satellites, or frankly, even to do satellites and hack the satellite and those kind of events, which we have participated in the past, and we continue to plan to try to participate in the future. And with that, that's all the slides I have. Don't know if there's any questions for the group, from the group.
And once again, I fail with my mic. I keep turning it off so I don't interrupt y'all. So thank you so much. And we don't have any questions Just yet. This is where I feel I need to do the obligatory, being the daughter of a West Point grad. I'm sure there's a joke about football or something to go in. So we'll just kind of, we'll pretend like I said something very witty, snarky. You can feign offense and then continue on. But it's fascinating to see too as well, the, again, kind of that hands-on education approach. Are you, and I'm sure there's been a shift as well from kind of the focus of students perhaps, or you know, from even 5, 6 years ago to now of like the bar is raised. They probably have a little more exposure to some of the things. Are they requesting as well different, like, hey, can we look at this, or like partnerships? Is that causing, are you seeing a shift almost from inside the program as well?
So I think it's kind of a bipolar problem there, right? So we'll have a goodly amount of the community, particularly at the freshman level, coming in who a lot of folks say, well, it's great, it must be easy to be a comp sci person in a digital era, right? Everyone knows computers. What I find is everyone's a really good user of a computer, right? So everyone knows iPads and iPhones really well, but have no idea when a command prompt shows up on the screen, like what just happened, my computer's broken, there's text on the screen, I don't understand what to do here, which is interesting. So while they're using it quite well, they don't necessarily know the implications of it. And I think that happens on the cyber side as well, where a lot of the students coming in just don't have that experience. Unless their parents happen to be, I do some talks with industry, and sometimes just small businesses, and they're like, well, I just had this ransomware thing and I never thought this could happen. It's a total shock to me. And I'm like, yeah, funny thing, it's not really.
Exactly.
So until
Well,
it's real,
it's,
it's not real,
well, and it's the adage, or you would always hear like, oh, well, nobody cares about my data. Like, why do I need to, like, oh, I'm not doing anything interesting, anything exciting. I'm just a small mom and pop business. Like, yes, but especially in an IoT connected, it's like, yes, but you're a gateway to something else, or you're just a piece, a cog in the bot net that they're building out. So,
or you're just processing power that we're going to use to go grind
mhm.
some more bitcoins. A lot of folks, I find it's a very from a cyber community, I think it's often surprising to folks to how naive most users are to the implications of cyber. And frankly, we've done protections as a community, or and as a government, to try to help kind of mitigate that. Don't worry about that, right? I mean, Target gets hacked, and thousands of different credentials are stolen, but so what? Right, my bank account, my bank credit card gets stolen, and the bank refunds it, and I get that, and it's hard to understand that the implications of the so what's on some of those things, because the damage has been mitigated by non-traditional means. And so how do you get people to that point? And particularly in the cyber kinetic environment, right? The kinetic services very much have a mindset of bomb the runway. And so in our cyber city, we have a lovely type of aircraft there. And that aircraft, I use it as an example. Like, okay, this aircraft's going to have weapons of mass destruction, right? So it has some fissile material that's going to take off. How do we stop that? And traditionally, we start off with the discussion of bomb the runway. Well, that's a great airman-minded kind of thing, but let's talk about dirty bombs, right? And now you have fissile material over civilian populace. Is that something that's legally allowed? Are we willing to go and be the bad guy who now created fissile material over a lovely community? What other kind of ways can we have that? And so it's really starting to trying to change the mindset of the power that cyber has, and I think people are just not aware. The idea that the traffic lights are magic. I believe and how do we turn it to, it's not magic, it's that box, right?
Yeah.
And it's made by humans, right? And it's in every traffic stop site, and it's IP accessible. So how do we have that discussion for them?
Well, and
They don't understand it.
too, as a formerly addressing some of these issues from a city perspective, being on Insight and having to have those just conversations of, yes, this vendor is coming in telling us about a smart meter. Well, and I'm even talking about a parking meter that, oh, yes, if we can automate some of this. And the downside is, well, what else is that parking meter connecting to? And does it need to? Does it need to have a sensor that's looking at this? Does it need to that, or is it creating that data? And so kind of looking at the broad reaching impacts of, well, it seems it's just a traffic light. So how do the cadets kind of react to that, realizing kind of the interconnectedness and that a sensor here, or kind of like how that flows?
You just kind of have to, expose them to it. And so shock therapy, I think, is the approach on this one. Again, that airplane example, oftentimes what I will culminate that with is there's a water treatment plant there. And many of the water treatment plants are running Windows XP, which we just hacked a class ago, right? And it's super easy to get into, and it's pretty much guaranteed, right, to be accessible. And that water treatment plant also controls the chlorine level of the water. And now we're in a position where, do we increase the chlorine level, which we just, I think recently saw, on the news and attacks in some foreign countries, increase the chlorine level of that to a point where we're now poisoning the populace. It's just a water treatment plant. All it does is mix the stuff and runs, and it works every day, and the water comes out, and no one thinks about it until you start digging into how, right? How is that magic happening, and is it secure, and is the folks who are securing it, are they aware of the financial responsibility, but also the legal and social responsibility they have to do that appropriately? Until you unveil that all the way back to, you just drank water and got poisoned, that shock therapy it's not real to them. And so a lot of the times we have it is just to get them back to, try to unravel the, take apart the onion, if you will, until we get to that core, like, and now you're vulnerable and you didn't know it. And how do we make sure that doesn't happen on our weapon systems, right? Because, it's horrible concept of poison chlorine thing. But if someone's, for example, taking over a weapons platform that's carrying thousands of munitions, that's unacceptable. And so making sure that they're aware of these interconnected nature and the secondary, tertiary ramifications of us, just blinking for a moment on this terrain. Shock therapy is the only way I think we can get it across to them, and that's what we try.
And that carries over, and not just, in the avionics and aviation, when people realize that with a basic, even commercial airlines, that the pilots are using iPads, and in some cases for navigation, or like what happens if the GPS goes out. The Navy's having to teach different navigational techniques that were considered old school because we can't rely on the GPS positioning. So, it's kind of funny just to see the lights go on.
Well, the classic adage, right? There was a vignette that many online might know about, of a day without space, and the implications that it has, and why space, while we think it's just this floating ephemeral thing out there, its implications are incredible. If we lose the accessibility of those assets, what are we able to do? And so this is why we have that pyramid of education, because at the freshman level, they don't know much. But as they get older and more mature, they're now understanding and connecting all these pieces together, that, oh, that cyber thing is important, but it's also important with respect to space and the air operations and the civil and military kind of relationship. So thank you.
No, thank you, and appreciate, and we look forward to working with y'all at future ICS Village events. Anytime we can get folks playing with the walls and the blinky lights, so to speak, there, great. But thank you for your time, and again, everyone can catch a replay of the information and the talks on the ICS Village YouTube channel.